Hey everyone, welcome back to part 3 of our three-way showdown between the Canon, Nikon and Tamron 70-200 f2.8 stabilized lenses. In the first one we went through specs and build quality. In the second one it was all about how they are to use, how good is the VR/VC stabilization, and how good are they, in terms of their overall shooting experience and autofocus. This time we're looking at image quality. So let's jump in and look at sharpness, vignetting, bokeh, all of that good stuff. Last week I shot Miss Pole Dance Australia with these 3 lenses, so I wanted to just throw back to the second episode and let you know, first off, all 3 of these performed really well in terms of autofocus in low light. I'd be happy to use any of them. I found myself using the Tamron the most, mainly because I was shooting that and the Canon on the 1DX, and that was the most suitable camera for the job, whereas the Nikon I had on the D800E, which wasn't really ideal for that kind of situation. The autofocus of that camera wasn't really up to the task, and neither is the high ISO. That kind of a performance is hard with all the varying lighting and moving dances, that kind of thing, but I was shooting mainly from 135 to 200 mil at the back of the room. So it's really hard to compare with those different lighting situations, but I'm happy with the results of all 3 of them. Now let's jump into some more controlled lighting to really see how these 3 perform. Okay, here are some shots taken at 135 mil at f8 with studio lights. There's one and there's the other. Can you tell the difference between the 2? Let's take some 100% crops. It was focused on the left eye. There's the first one and there's the second one. So I can tell you one of these is Canon and one is Tamron. Can you tell which is which? Let's look at them side by side. Okay, the Canon is on the left, the Tamron is on the right. And I have to say, if anything, I think there's more fine detail and better micro contrast there on the Tamron. Surprising, but that kind of sets the tone for some of the tests coming up. Let's take a look at some more sample images. These are all shot wide open at 200 mil f2.8. That first one is the Tamron. Next up is the Canon. And there we go with the Nikon. The Nikon obviously has very different white balance, even though they're all on auto settings. Could you see much of a difference between them? In these next images I shot at 135 and 200 mil at f2.8 and f8. I'll let you look at the images to make up your own mind of what you think of the results. As we go through these shots, also take note of the out of focus areas. The bokeh from all 3 of these lenses is really beautiful and pleasing, lovely and soft. The rounded aperture blades really help, and there's no onioning effect from any of these lenses. So the Canon and Nikon are tried and tested, and I have to say I'm really impressed with this Tamron. It's a big step up over the non-VC one that I tested in the last showdown. It's right up there with them. I think the micro contrast and the sharpness are just as good, but it's time to check out vignetting. Each of these tests was shot at 70 mil and 200 mil going up from f2.8. So here we are with the Canon at 2.8, quite obvious. There we are at f4. Clearing up fairly nicely, 5.6 pretty much clear, and f8 100% clear. And now coming in on the 200 mil end, there we go at 2.8, quite heavy. f4 looking better, 5.6 and 8 again, lovely and clear. Now looking at the Nikon, more obvious on each side there. At f4 starts to lighten up, 5.6 pretty much gone, f8 again as you would hope, totally gone. Then in at 200 mil, quite heavy on the right hand side, at f4 softening up, 5.6 pretty much clear, and again f8 nice and clear. Now the Tamron, it may not look like much, but that's actually pretty shocking. It's everywhere. Now as it starts to clear, you see where we've come from, and then as we jump into 200 mil again, that's really heavy. At f4 clearing, 5.6 is still in the corners, and it's not by f8 that it's pretty much cleared. But just take a look again at 2.8. At 200 mil, that could be an issue. Okay, having had a look at the images of all 3 of these lenses on a fully calibrated screen, I'm really impressed with how all 3 of them perform. I'm really familiar with the Canon and Nikon already, having shot with them a lot, and having done the previous 70-200 showdown, I knew that they're stunning performers. Last time around, the image quality of the Tamron was last. After Sigma was a little bit behind Canon and Nikon, then the Tamron was a step behind that again. The optics of this one have come a long way. So apart from the fact that the build quality and the stabilization has improved a lot, the image quality is right up there. And I have to say, in terms of fine contrast and overall sharpness, I think this is on par with them, and in some shots I actually felt that this was performing better than the Canon. Now, only the Canon and the Tamron are perfectly comparable here, of course, because they're being shot on the same camera, same settings, it's really comparable. The Nikon being on the D800, much higher resolution, much worse ISO performance and a different focusing system, so it's not perfectly comparable, but it's just there as a control point. The one thing that's, letting down the Tamron is that vignetting. Can't get away from it. It's by far the strongest of the three. Then I would say the Nikon is second and the Canon is probably leading that competition. It is quite a circular vignette, whereas the Nikon is kind of a boxy one on the sides. And some people, you can look for a silver lining, I guess. Some people like the look of a slight vignette if it's a natural one, that it can focus your attention if you're trying to get it on the center of frame. But really, I think at 200mm at 2.8, it's quite heavy. You've got most of the frame having some vignette and just a central little bit without it. By f4, I would say it's about the same as these guys are at 2.8 and acceptable, but it's certainly an issue. At 135 and 70, I didn't notice it as much, but at 200, really quite strong. So you're gonna have to take that into account. The next video is gonna cover a few things I missed and wanted to add in, such as focus breathing and what their true maximum zoom is. There's some speculation that these aren't all true 200mm lenses, plus a couple of other little things, then a full recap on all of the findings and my overall conclusion. And for the first time, I'm actually going to award star ratings. I've never done that in reviews before, but I think to really show where I think these sit in terms of overall performance, that it'll be worthwhile. Stay tuned, please click the like and subscribe. You can check out my news and review channel as well. Jump over to the website and you can sign up for the mailing list and get involved on the community forum. I'll see you soon.